Okay, I'm going to now admit you probably don't need any more help on doing Lab 3, but it is so much fun. I just couldn't stand stopping where we did last time with this stuff that seems kind of like gibberish. And so, eh, for those of you who are still having trouble, you can follow through the rest of this, or you can just um, hopefully get some of the thrill out of watching me do it that I have when I see how a computer is starting to have just glimpses of intelligence. So if you who are interested in artificial intelligence, this is what we'd like to do, is have the computer start to exhibit some of what we might see in human thought. So, okay, here we are. We left off by creating a map that is just a map from a string to another string, and we wanted to possibly make this a little more, generate a little bit better text. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next part of the lab. Again, we've already gotten to where we generated 100 words of text, but it's kind of boring and repetitive. So let's go ahead and make this a little more complex. Let's go from a string to a vector of strings, which will allow us to keep track of all the possible next strings. So we'll have I, and then push Nephi into this vector, and we'll have I wish, we'll push wish into the vector, and then we'll be able to pick one of these randomly to create some more interesting text that won't get stuck in loops like the last thing did. So let's go ahead and do this. In this case, we're going to do exactly what we did before, except we're now going to just push this into our vector instead of replacing it. Okay? So here we go. We've now got a map from a string to a vector of strings, and I can now go through my vector that is tokens, begin down to tokens.end, and I will go ahead and push that. Notice we're just pushing it onto the vector of next string. So when I start in this particular state, this is a vector of all the next states I could potentially end up in. Okay? And so, let's see, I'm not going to really put this out to the file right now, but I could if I wanted to. So now, once it's in there, I need to print it out differently too. And so maybe what I would want to do at this point is grab seed my random number generator with the current time, and then I'll start with a state of nothing. I will pick a random number between 0 and the size of that vector that's associated with that string. So again, this is the empty string, so we know that the thing that follows it is I. Let's say that our state was I. We know the next states are going to be Nephi and wished and saw, and a bunch of things are all in this vector. So I'm now going to pick randomly one of those, and you put it out to the screen and use it as my next state to grab another string. Okay? So let's see how this all works. We can grab this, and instead of doing this junk that we did before, we'll go ahead and pick a random time, and we will start with the null string, and let's see how it works. Okay, so do a make or something and run it. Oh, look at this. I might not utter against anyone that he remembered. The Lord esteemeth all my proceedings in God we're playing. This sounds a little more interesting than the stuff we had before here, right? Because we're not just picking the last next word after I, we're randomly picking one of them, okay? After might, we're randomly picking the next word. So that helps us quite a bit. But you're still sensing that although we're not stuck in a loop, it's not making a whole lot of sense, right? Some of this actually is. I, Nephi, did revile against my father, saw numerous. I don't know. I don't want to be sacrilegious, but you can see here that we're starting to generate something that sounds like First Nephi. Okay, so let's see what do we want to do next. So we would really like to get some more context. So we don't just want what is the next word after I. We want to know what the next word is after I, Nephi, for example. And that context will make it sound a lot more like English speech. And so let's instead have a map from a list of strings, so this could be I, Nephi, to all the possible things that happen after I, Nephi in my word map. So now we can actually get some intelligence into this. And so we'll go ahead and throw them into my map. So in this particular case, we'll start by initializing a list with M spaces, and then we'll start throwing on other strings as they occur, and so we'll have M characters of context in this state list. So then we're going to index into our map with a list. And this is where maps get to be so magical and cool. Because this, we're not just indexing with something that's not an integer, but we're indexing with a complex data structure like a list of a bunch of strings. So let's go ahead and take a look at this and see how it works. So we're going to go into our code and we're going to say, okay, let's throw this into a map of gross. We'll go ahead and throw this into a map between keys that are lists of strings and values that are vectors of strings. So we start out by setting up a list with just empty strings, and then we're going to go through my vector of inputs here, which is tokens, beginning down to tokens.end. And I will go ahead and push my current state. So beginning with this state will be all empty characters, M of them, and I'm going to push on the string I. Okay, the next time we'll have, we're then going to take my state and push I on the end. So it'll be empty, empty character, then I. And we're going to pop off the front one. So we'll get rid of one of those empty strings. So the thing we really need to do is figure out what M is going to be. And so we're going to const int M is equal to something like 3. Let's start with 3 words of context and see what that sounds like. So in this particular case, we'll have 3 blank characters. Then once we have I, it'll be 2 blank characters and I. Then when we get to Nephi, it will be blank character, I and Nephi. And we'll just keep doing that to build our map. Okay, oh, this is so exciting. I can tell you guys are just on the edge of your seats wondering what is going to go next. So now what we're going to do is let's go ahead and generate some text from this. I'm just so excited. I can hardly wait to see what happens. By the way, this is going to be different every time, so hopefully it will be really fun. We'll go ahead and still have our seed, our random number generator, and then we're going to go ahead and sorry about the formatting trouble. Okay, so first we'll clear out state. So remember that we started back here with initializing this state with just a bunch of empty strings. Here we're just going to clear it out. And now we want to go ahead and set it back equal to just having 4 blank strings in it. Okay? We're now going to have 100 strings generated. We will go ahead and look up in my map. Let's see, we got 3 blank strings. Sorry about that. Okay, we'll look up in our map for that particular state, pick a random next character out of it, print it out, and then we'll go ahead and push the thing that I currently got out of for that particular context to the back of my state. We'll pop the oldest thing off of it, and we'll go to the next word. If this isn't cool, I have no idea what is cool. Let's go ahead and see what happens. Lots of problems in here, huh? Where does my problems first start? Looks like I forgot to change everything. Tokens and let's see if it doesn't know about lists. If that's not my problem, I have no hope of getting this to work, but let's see what happens. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and run it, and let's see what it says. I, Nephi, having heard all the words of Laman, wherefore Laman and Lemuel partook not of the world until this time, and from this time henceforth and forever. Hey, this almost sounds like Nephi. It's almost like he's come back from the grave to give us some new counsel here. And notice the next time I run it, I get something that's a little different. I, Nephi, having heard all the words which had been given unto him, and after this manner did my brother Laman stir up their hearts to anger. That almost sounds like English. So I'm going to just encourage you to play around with this. Play around with the number of how deep the context is, right? If you get the context too deep, you'll start not finding something for that particular set of words. So you won't know where to go next. And by the way, you're going to want to probably in here first make sure that this size is not 0. Otherwise, this is a division and you'll get a segmentation fault. So that will start happening as you get larger values of m. But experiment with different values of m. You know, you can imagine maybe having a different map. A map from, instead of a list of strings, maybe you want to have a map from a set. And earlier we created these sets. So maybe you do something with your sets that's of interest to you, of unique strings. There's all kinds of things that you could try, and as you see what your output is like, let it guide you into trying to optimize to find a better solution. So I hope that was a lot of fun to you. It's a lot of fun to me to see this kind of stuff, and I would encourage you to try some different text, maybe a poet or a politician, and just see if you can make something that sounds like him. Hope this will be a lot of fun for you, and I'll talk to you later.